Hello, everybody. Welcome to Being You, an SPH Productions presentation. My name is Shane Hodges, author of It's Time to Be You, How to Become Your Most Authentic Self. My guest today is Nadine Bridges, Executive Director of One Colorado. Thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be
Absolutely.
here and so proud of you. Let me just say that. I'm
Thank
so proud
you.
of you.
Thank you. Well, the first thing I like to do with my guests is a quick rapid fire Q&A where I get 60 seconds to ask you as many questions as I can.
Okay.
We'll see what we come up with. Are you ready?
I am ready.
All right. Food you hate.
Mangoes.
Prized possession.
My family.
Ooh. Mountains or beach?
Beach.
Drink of choice?
Soda water.
Favorite band as a teenager?
Hootie and the Blowfish.
Oh, yes. Hello. What's a concert you want to see?
Well, I want to go to Beyonce right now.
Okay. Ever got a speeding ticket?
Yes.
Do you know how fast you were going?
Too fast.
Favorite feature on your partner?
Her laugh and her eyes.
Nice. A dessert that you hate?
Chocolate cake.
Do you believe in aliens?
Yes.
Would you base jump?
No.
Favorite
No.
color?
Pink.
Religion you were raised?
Jehovah's Witness.
The best book you've read?
Fry the Beloved Country.
Okay, all right. Well, we got through 14.
All
So
right.
I think that actually might be a new record.
All right.
I think the last record was at 13. All right. Well, our first segment is called You Do You. And this is where we get to know a little bit more about what it is you do.
Great.
So tell us a little bit about One Colorado and your role here.
Wonderful. I have been the executive director for One Colorado for 4.5 years. We're the state's leading LGBTQ advocacy organization. So all the rights and protections that we have in the state is because of the work we've been doing over the last 15 years.
Nice.
So we want to make sure that we are protecting LGBTQI plus community and families.
Excellent.
Mm-hmm.
So you said you've been in the role 4.5 years.
Mm-hmm.
What have you noticed in terms of changes in that time?
Well, I took over the role in the middle of the pandemic. So,
Yes.
yes,
Okay.
so that was a lot. I think for myself, part of being an executive director is really being out in community, building a public face, being able to fundraise. And for about a year, a little bit more than a year, I couldn't really do that. So it took
Mm-hmm.
me a
Mm,
while to really find my groove. I think a lot of people knew me in community but didn't know me when it
sure.
came to the work. So I think that has been the biggest change. We went from a Trump administration to when just started was the inauguration for Biden.
Uh,
And now we're back in a Trump administration. I think for Colorado in particular, we have done a lot to insulate the state.
mhm.
We have the most protections than any other state in the nation the last time I checked. And there was some complacency in our state around LGBTQ issues, in particular
Okay.
around trans issues.
Mm,
Now we're seeing this intentional rollback for trans, non binary, and gender expansive folks. So people are starting to mobilize. I think folks are starting to take the veil off their eyes, and it's a little bit of a backtrack.
mhm.
But I think the movement is changing. There's accountability is changing, and folks are really ready to get into the fight.
Nice.
And I think the other piece of that is that we're building solidarity in a way that we should, right? This is
Mhm.
not just an attack on bodily autonomy, but
Yeah.
reproductive rights, on immigrant rights. So we know that this is done by design, and our goal is to make sure that we are being in solidarity with all communities as we move forward to protect community.
Nice. What would you say has been your biggest challenge or challenges since taking on this role?
Oh, man. I think personally for myself, the biggest challenge, and I've written about this a couple of times, is being the first Black person and the first woman in
Mm,
this role.
okay.
It's hard. I think that as much as our community, and I specifically am talking about queer community,
Hmm.
has changed, there's still bias and prejudice, misogyny,
Yeah.
misogynoir. that happens in community. And so it's been really hard for me to gain my footing. However, I have had a lot of support. Our previous executive directors have been amazing in making sure that I am seen and heard. But that's hard. When you come from any marginalized identity and work so hard to build up against imposter syndrome, and then you
Mm,
immediately are walking into rooms where people may not want you at the table, and it's
yeah.
clear how folks talk to you, how they represent themselves. It's hard to not fall back into patterns of I'm not good enough or strong enough
Mhm.
or I don't deserve this role. So I've had to work really, really hard. I have great therapists to really build out who I am, which is this
Mhm.
powerful, smart, intelligent human who deserves to be in this role, and also push back against the haters. So
Yes. Love.
I think that's been the hardest part.
My favorite thing is that you can acknowledge those positive things about self. I
Yeah.
love that. That is huge. What do you hope to accomplish moving forward in regard to your role?
I think a couple of things. My goal for One Colorado was to make sure that we were moving into the next generation, right? When I first took over the role,
Mm,
people would say to me, why do we even need One Colorado? Like, we've done everything.
wow.
And my goal is to get people to understand why we will continuously, no matter how many rights we have in the state,
Uh-huh.
um, we need an organization that is statewide, that is continuing to understand the voices of all angles of Colorado and strengthening and protecting our laws. That has to be continuous. If we're learning anything right now, it's a fact that just resting on our laurels is not going to do anything. We
Yeah.
have to stay vigilant. And
Yes.
I want to make sure that One Colorado is around for the next 10, 15 years. We
Mhm.
say we celebrated our Queer Senora 15 years in November.
Nice.
And we want One Colorado to be around. I want One Colorado to be around for the next 15 years.
I
So,
have to say, I'm a little bit shocked and also disappointed that there's anyone that has the mindset we don't have anything left to do.
yeah,
That's a little scary.
I say this a lot in civil rights in particular. Many times in the civil rights movements, we get to a point, right? Like we've passed the Civil Rights
Hmm.
Act, we've have women rights, we have whatever it may be, even LGBTQ marriage equality. But then we get to the shelf, but we don't build a ladder
Yeah,
to go up further. It's a false sense of safety. And I
agree.
think, again, if we're learning right now with this socio-political context and this current administration, is that we always should have checks and balances. As a leader,
Absolutely.
the one thing I'm always saying is that I have to continue to learn, and that's the only way I'm going to be a better leader. And I think as humans, we need to continue to learn, continue to grow, and that
Absolutely.
means we can't always keep our foot off the gas.
Well,
So,
the learning part actually plays into my next question. Is it true that you have been or perhaps still are an adjunct professor at DU?
So I was an adjunct professor at DU. My job does not allow me to teach
No.
anymore. I've gone in and taught or co-taught with other
Hmm.
colleagues, but I have not taught a full class in 4.5 years. And I
Gotcha.
miss it a lot. So
Well, how did that come about, getting into teaching?
so I've been teaching, I taught K through 6 prior to going to grad school. I
Mhm.
taught Spanish. And I will say that grad students are kind of like K through 6 sometimes. You know what I mean? Like you have to like build up confidence and strength. But really, so I went to the University of Denver from 2008 to 2010.
Okay.
I got my master's in social work with an emphasis on macro leadership and working in the Latinx community. I was a first gen student. I was the first person to go to college. I was the first person to go to grad school.
Hmm.
And the University of Denver, the Graduate School of Social Work really helped me build my own professional sense of self. I learned a lot about myself, like marginalized identities, but also my privileged identities as a cisgender, able bodied person,
Hmm.
the accountability that I needed to have in the world, understanding power dynamics. And I loved being able to understand that vantage point, that it's
Hmm.
not just about the colonization that has happened to me and my family and the impacts that it has had, patriarchy. on myself, but also how I can impact others with those same issues.
Mm-hmm.
And once I gained that knowledge, I wanted to give it back. I wanted to be in the classroom, creating discussions, building the next generation of social workers, which I'm super proud of
Nice.
being. And so as soon as I had the opportunity to get into a classroom, I did.
What made you want to do social work?
That's so funny. I don't think I wanted to originally be a social worker. I joke about this all the time, and I say that when I heard about social work, I thought we were like these sneaky people who climbed into bedrooms and kidnapped little kids because that's what you hear.
Oh my
That's what
God.
you hear, right? Like we're baby snatchers.
Uh-huh.
I remember my professor in my first class ever at DU, he'd said, "Welcome to the wonderful world of baby snatching." And everybody was silent. And he said, "You don't like that? Well, then you have an opportunity to change that perception of who we are."
There you go.
Social work is more than that.
Yeah.
And what I say now is a couple of things. Like, one, I think that social work is an ideology.
Mhm.
It is teaching you how to not be an asshole. How do you meet community where they are?
Oh,
How do
yes.
we create space for people to thrive and learning that it's not about you?
Hmm.
And what a beautiful thing. And so sad that I have to go get a master's degree to learn how to have respect and love of the human condition. But in this
Yeah.
society where everything is so individualistic,
Hmm.
where nothing is about community, you have to be able to deconstruct all of the socialization that's happened to
Hmm.
us. And I am so proud to be a social worker. I think we're the bee's knees. We have a space and we should own that.
Well, I've known you for several years, and I've seen the various things that you have done over the years through positions you've held, but also postings you do and the advocacy work. It's very impressive, I have to say. So
Oh,
please keep it
shucks.
up. Well, let's move into
Thank
our
you.
next segment, which is Who Are You? And this is where
Mhm.
we get a little bit more personal. So, what is something a lot of people don't know about
There's so much they don't know about me.
you?
My public persona is not me. Let me see. What's the first thing? When I was a kid, I was a break dancer.
Wow.
Yeah, I just told my
Okay.
staff this the other day. We
What
had
age?
probably like 7 to 11 around that age.
Wow. Okay.
I grew up in Newport, Rhode Island, and yes, there are projects in Newport. I did not grow up in the Gilded Age, just so you know.
Oh my
For
God,
all you
that's
people
hilarious.
out there, there's actually a wall that goes right down past the museum, not the museums, of the mansions,
Hmm.
and behind that is where all the projects are.
Ah,
And
okay.
my understanding, my family is one of the original Newport blacks to be in that
Okay.
area, but that's where all like the servants were. And so like
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
like in those projects. So there are projects in Newport. There's
Okay.
three main ones in Chapel Terrace, which is where I grew up, part of my life. My whole family lived in those projects, and we would do breakdancing. My uncle Steve actually put together a breakdancing contest. We raised money for Ethiopia at the
Oh
time.
my gosh.
Yeah,
So you've
yeah,
been
yeah,
doing this
yeah.
kind of work since you were a
For
kid.
since I was little.
Okay.
But I love baking. It is the thing that keeps me going. I
What's your
love
favorite thing to bake?
Ooh. So I like to bake cakes for people.
Okay.
I actually like to learn what your favorite flavors are,
Hmm.
and I'll bake a cake specifically for you. So,
Noted.
yes, just so you, yeah, I took a class that taught us how to make our own recipes. It's one of my favorite things to do. And I have a
That's
good friend that I work
awesome.
with on it too. So that's probably the thing. I love heavy metal just as much as I love hip hop, just as
Okay.
much as I love country music. Like
Hmm.
I'm a huge music fan.
Hmm.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
those are things that people might not know.
So you mentioned you want to see Beyonce in concert. Have you seen her in concert before?
Yes, we went to her last concert in
Okay.
Phoenix, Arizona. I really wanted to go see Cowboy Carter, but
Hmm.
unfortunately my schedule just does not allow for it.
Well, if you could sit down with 15-year-old Nadine, what would that conversation be?
First year gay, so or bi. That would probably be the first thing I would
Hmm.
say. I would
Did you
tell
know at that time?
I don't know. I think so. At least I think I always knew I was attracted to other genders. I
Hmm.
don't know if I would have put my finger on it. As I said, I was raised a Jehovah's Witness,
Ah,
and I'm not sure that I even thought there was an option, even though there were
right.
queer people in my family. The funny thing is that I had a conversation with my dad a few years ago where he was saying that he always knew.
Mm.
And first he said, I thought that you were just only bringing guys home, but you were dating women too and just didn't want to say anything. And I was just like, no, that wasn't the case. I didn't come out until I was 30. But
Oh, wow.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. When I met my wife, actually, at the graduate school of social work. So
Okay. Sometimes things happen the way it's
yeah,
supposed to.
exactly. But he said to me that one time he was speaking to my stepmom and they were talking about our futures. And when it came to me, he had said to her, and he said, I must have been like 12 at the time.
Hmm.
And he said that he told her she's going to marry a woman. And my stepmom was like, why would you say that? And he said, there's no man that's going to allow her to be able to show her power the way she has it. And only a woman will be able to handle that. So I don't know what that was all about, but thank you, Dad.
I
And my
was gonna
wife
say,
does harness who I am and allows me to be who I want to be, which is
I
great.
gotta say,
So
props to Dad
I
for being
know.
a straight black man of that
Mm-hmm.
age and in that time to not only acknowledge it, recognize it, but speak it out
Speak it
loud.
out loud. Mm-hmm.
That's amazing. Okay.
And he's
Props to
an
Dad.
amazing ally, an incredible father,
How old
and
is he now?
he is 72. He just turned
Okay.
72.
Well, what is something you've always wanted to do but haven't yet been able to?
That's so interesting. So my dad was a chef, and I honestly have always had the dream of opening up a restaurant. When I was a kid, if you look at my journals back then, I wrote up a whole plan about building a restaurant, making it sustainable with farming, and
Mm-hmm.
also creating a space for people to learn. You would learn farming, you would learn the
Mm-hmm.
business. And I hope one day that I have the opportunity to do something in that realm.
You've always been ahead of the times.
I guess so. I think, the people in our community call my dad Pops. He has always been a father figure to about 20 to 30 young, mainly black boys. He would invite them into his restaurant and would teach them how to cook. Some of them are
Oh,
still
wow.
cooks, some of them just cook for their families, but he's always been that person.
Mm-hmm.
And so even though it wasn't like intentional, he wanted to make sure that they were seen and heard and loved.
Nice.
And so if I could create a space for that too and create opportunity for folks to thrive sustainably,
Mm-hmm.
then I want to figure that out. So that has always been a dream of mine.
What kind of restaurant would you like it to be?
I think it would probably be farm to table, like so
Mm-hmm.
what was in season, and then probably as much as I love meat, except for beef, do not like beef. My wife is vegetarian. I
Mm-hmm.
love to cook vegan food. I'm good at
Mm-hmm.
it. So I would love to have something that was intentional so it wasn't just a
Yep.
salad for vegetarian folks.
I
So maybe
gotcha.
just a little bit of a mix of things.
Nice. Well, when you are bored, what brings you out of it?
Oh man, when I am bored, well, I'm obsessed with social media, which is terrible. Terrible, terrible. I actually have a block on my phone now so I'm not allowed to be on.
Okay, that's funny.
Um, I the Great British Bake Off, any type
Yeah.
of cooking shows,
Mm-hmm.
are my jam. I just finished watching Top Chef. I love the barbecue throwdowns. It's just joy. I don't want the stress. I'm not a Hell's Kitchen person. I don't want
Oh,
stressful.
no.
I want joy,
Yeah.
happiness, the baking
Yeah.
shows. Like that really gets me out of it. But that's probably like my one thing. I do love to work out.
Mm.
I unfortunately have not been kind to myself on working out lately, but it is the thing that keeps me grounded.
Mm-hmm.
And I love big romance novels.
Okay. All right. Good to know.
Yeah, audiobooks, because nice time for reading.
Well, at what point do you feel you started to find yourself?
Oh man. I feel like I'm continuously finding myself and
Mm,
reinventing myself. But I was in Peace Corps in Nicaragua, and that was probably the first time that I started to understand my position in the world and as a US citizen, what it means to be in other countries
mm,
and how I could play a role in walking alongside folks on like
mhm,
learning. And I think I've continued to do that. I started out my career in youth development work, and I used to be a director of a youth center, a LGBTQ youth center right here in the Denver metro area. That is probably where I really learned to be fully proud of myself as a queer person, the importance of young voice and imagination, and to be able to express myself and my gender expression in the ways I want. So if I want to rock a gown, I can do that. If I want to wear a bow tie, that's okay. Yeah. And that foundation, those young people, what they have given to me is a gift that I will carry always. So
I feel the same way. I've worked with adolescents the entire time I've been a therapist. I feel they keep me young. I love to hear a different generational voice.
Absolutely. Yeah. And they're the ones that are telling us that there are no boxes. Like, how dare you place me in anything outside of what I want to be?
Yeah.
And for myself, as this Capricorn who's pretty structured in some ways and a workaholic, and for someone to say, hey, can we just go to the park and have a good day today, and have to be able to switch off in that way was wonderful. And to see queer joy at its best. You know what I mean? When you can create that space. So it really taught me how it's important for us when we have the position and the power to create spaces for all of us, how important that is, how important it is to create space for inner joy, your inner child. Now more than ever, we need that.
Amen. Absolutely. Well, again, thank you so much for sharing. I want to move into our next section, which is the WOW segment of our program, Words of Wisdom.
Okay.
I like to ask all my guests, what, if any, words of wisdom do you have for those that are watching or others in regard to being your most authentic self?
Cut through the noise is the one thing I would say. With the way social media is nowadays, there's a lot of messages out there on how you should be, and it's not up to anyone to tell you how you should be. If you are, you got your freak flag flying, then go ahead out there and be the best. Be the best on that. If you are an introvert, be an introvert, but just love yourself. I think it's really important to love all the pieces, even the ugly pieces of yourself. It's important to have respect and love for the human condition. I think the more you can connect with humanity, the more authentic you can be. So, whatever way that's defined for you, let it be. It's hard. I think it's really, really hard right now where there are all these checked boxes of like what it means to be a human, and there's no one way. There's no one way. And I think that's the thing that I try to learn. And I'm not good at this, y'all. That's why I have a therapist. But it's the one thing that when I am feeling like I don't know who I am, or my wife will always say to me, you know who you are. You're just trying to fit into other people's boxes, and that's where you get lost. So just be you, whatever that may be. Don't hurt anybody, love people, create joy, especially under all of this pressure these days, because that's what's going to get you through.
Absolutely. Love that. Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, what, if any, information would you like to share in terms of your socials or contact information, and or to get information not just about you, but also One Colorado?
Yeah, I think if you want to learn more about me, the best thing to do is actually go through our One Colorado socials, www.one-colorado.org. That's the full word one and the full word Colorado. We're on TikTok. We're on Facebook. You'll see me doing some awkward videos on TikTok with our Gen Z staff, but people seem to love them. Instagram. We have a lot of events coming up, so get involved. We do Know Your Rights training, civic engagement work. I can't express it enough that if we want to protect Colorado and really be an example for other states, then get involved on your local level, not just state and federal, but really understand your school board candidates, sheriffs, public libraries, all of those pieces. We need our community to get out there and get engaged so that we can ensure that we're continuing to thrive as a state and hopefully as a country.
Amen. Well, again, thank you so much for doing this.
Thank you for
It's
having
always
me.
good to chat and catch up. Again, my name is Shane Hodges, author of It's Time to Be You, How to Become Your Most Authentic Self. Thank you all for watching. Have a wonderful day and be yourselves. Take care, everybody.
Thank you.